just to summarize, the reason I suggested you downloaded this was because you can run, basically, as I said at first, WordPress and, well, most other modern websites need to have a web server to run on. If you go make a website, let's say PowerPoint, then you get .html files, and you can read, your browser can read those directly because, well, that's basically what the browser shows. Modern websites, though, they need access to a database and running a database. So you need some code that run. So you need a server both to run the database and a server to, well, interact with the database, which also allows for more complex user interaction. Thus, you need a web server. And that's why we downloaded MAM, because that's a free local web server that's rather easy to use. So I hope most of you have gotten it downloaded, and preferably some of you also have got, and at least I've seen some of you have also gotten it installed. And I saw some of you were using WordPress.com sites for your other lessons and such. That's fine. There's a slide you'll see in a moment where you go into looking at how proper WordPress, at least in my opinion, proper, because we can go change it ourselves and go poke in the code. Incredible how that makes things seem more real to those of us inclined for that way. But yeah, you can go in and change the code, but it looks a slight bit different than the site you might already have on WordPress.com. But that being said, the difference is not that major. So basically what we're seeing here and what you're doing on the server that runs on your own computer, you can take most of that and use knowledge and use on your projects already on WordPress.com, but you can't use everything about themes and everything about plugins. You can't use everything about that on the WordPress.com site. But then again, now you can also what's it called in English? You can also compare those two and say pros and cons if you're going to write a report about choosing the best solution. So yeah. And for those of you already, like I said, MAM is free. You also notice that there doesn't say anything about any advertisement or something when you install. If you clicked, while you're installing MAM, clicked, I think I can just say download and show, basically run through the installation. You can see it. It's already here. Just to make sure if there's any last questions. Come on. Yeah, choose language. No, why not? Doesn't really matter. Yeah, whatever. I'm just uninstalling my own install so you can see, just to make sure if some of you haven't installed it yet, you can follow it in a moment. Yep, cool. Next, and if you already have installed it and did not untick the MAM Pro, fret not. The only thing it says is if you try to run the Pro version after, I think, a couple of days or something, or depending on the internal watch and so on. If you end up trying to run the Pro version later on, it'll just say, I don't work anymore, buy me, and that's it. And then you say cancel, and then you go back and run the non-Pro version because that's free forever. So we'll stick to the non-Pro version. We'll say next. Yes, you need to accept the license agreement. No, that doesn't stand anything bad in the license agreement. I have actually read it and installed it, well, wherever you want. And if you have any problems installing, like I know some of you, I'll look in. Go ask me. I'll look into it afterwards. Yeah. And then you just say next. And it shouldn't take more than well, depending on the computer, it takes a couple of them. Doesn't take long. So to summarize, what we're getting, what we're getting here is basically a full web server. I mean, most people, when they think of a server, they think of some complex big computer only running server stuff. No, a server is basically just a piece of software that allows you to do something, in case of a web server, that allows you to run more, the code types more complex websites use. And then preferably the web server will be set up so the outside world can access those websites that the web server runs. That's basically what a web server is. Usually you end up dedicating a computer only to running a web server. You wouldn't want to run a server on your own private computer because you run a lot of other software on that, and then if your game of Counter-Strike ends up freezing, well, then then people were visiting your website, well, tough luck until you reboot their computer because Counter-Strike froze. They won't be able to access your website. That's why most people run dedicated computers as servers. Not because they are any different than normal computers. I mean, currently my web server is running on a Mac Mini, so that's also a pretty normal computer. Just running Debian on it and quite a bit more specialized Linux setup and all, but it's still a normal computer. But yeah, what we're doing here is basically getting all the software needed to run a website, run a web server in one small, easy to use package. Now it's installed. Good. And then we'll just start it. So basically what you get now should be a program that looks more or less like this. Of course, a slight bit different look on Mac, but yeah, basically the same. And as you can see, it takes a few seconds and then it's starting the web server, in this case Apache, and the MySQL server, that's the database server. So now we have a web server running on this computer. Does that mean the outside world have access to my computer? No. You can't go into Windows Fire. You can't go into the firewall of your system, either Windows or Mac firewall, and try to allow outside access and such. But this software is not made for running a web server that the world get access to. Basically, for the world to get access to your computer, you also need to set up your router and probably make a different. It's a bit more complex. You also probably need to make an arrangement with your telecommunications company and so on. But so it's a bit more if you want to run a proper server at home. This software is basically only for you running a server in a sandbox on your own computer, so you can test websites that require a server on your computer without any worry. Good. So now we have map running, and if we go into preferences, just to make sure, there's a few things here. If you didn't install the Pro version, do a check for MAMP Pro when starting MAMP. Then it won't ask you to buy the Pro version if you use the normal one. That's always nice. Windows or OS X, depending on what firewalls that you use, but especially Windows might pop up and say, do you want to give access to this program? And do allow it access. If you go to ports, it'll probably default to 8080, 8078 and something. Leave that be. For most of your cases, just leave the default value standing there. I need to change it because I have another web server running on this computer. So I need something unique for MAMP. Because usually it stands with 8080 3306. Just leave that be, and if there's any problems, try changing it to the default values, and if you still have some problems, poke me in the next break. PHP, we don't really need to change anything there. We'll just default to the highest version. That, like I said, that's the programming language that WordPress is coded in. And yeah, they do revise programming languages all the time, and you also use numbering for those. Just leave it at the new highest number possible. WordPress is updated all the time, so it runs well on the newest. And in web, so you don't need to change anything. Just notice the folder. In my case, it's c:/mam/htdocs. Do remember that folder. And then, yeah. So basically, that's it. Now you've got mam set up. So, if you haven't been to the WordPress.org and said download WordPress already, do so. So you have WordPress downloaded. And when you have that zip file, I'll just show you. You can go to the zip file. You can either just say unpack. My Windows is in Danish, but yeah, unpack it. So download WordPress from WordPress.org, so you have it. It'll also make it a lot easier for me in a moment when I'm going to show you how WordPress is, how it looks and how the menu is structured and how it's structured internally and how it's structured with where you change menus and themes and all that. Figured that would be easier if you can run it on your own computer and see the changes directly instead of only looking up here. That's why we are doing this one. How to unpack zip files might look a bit different depending on your operating system. If you're using Windows, if you're using Mac, if you have other programs such as WinRAR, you have other options. But I trust that most of you probably have tried unpacking a zip file at some point in your life before. Otherwise, ask some of your nice neighbors. There's probably one of them that can help you. Yeah, good. Then you have a folder named, you have probably a folder named WordPress 482, and inside that there's a folder named WordPress. You take that folder named WordPress, and then in member set, remember this path, right, under web. So now we go to that. I can see I need to speed up a slight bit, so but in this case it's cmam and htdocs. Okay, I have already put WordPress there before, but yeah. So now you put your WordPress that you download, the folder you downloaded. That was inside that zip file. There was a folder with WordPress, so you put your WordPress into whatever path you chose to install your map. But in this case, c:/mam/htdocs. Usually it would put it in it would have a subfolder named htdocs. Cool. Now we have the WordPress put in the folder that we designated the web server to run from. Yes. So from map, you can say open start page. Do you need a few minutes to get it copied? Okay. I'll wait a few minutes before continuing. Yeah. Good, we'll continue now, and if there's any questions past, I'll take it afterwards. Then I'm going to show you how WordPress looks and a slight bit of customization before we end the lesson today. And if there's any questions after we're done, 5:30, we'll take it there. Good. So now most of you have copied your WordPress folder to the folder where MAM runs its website from. Has it been very complex so far? Has it been okay? This is the most complex thing basically we're going to do most of the lessons, at least code-wise. All the rest of the things we're going to do, we're doing from a web browser. But if you haven't worked with running, software such as this and such, I can understand if you find it a bit complex and daunting. But if you still haven't got it running, I'll help you afterwards. And like I said a couple of times, I'll put my email up here, so you can also email me, and I have a bit of spare time in my lessons the next couple of days too. So if there's any questions, we can also arrange that we meet up. So in short, if you can't get it running, don't fret, I'll help you. Good. And then we go, if we say, we can go to the start page. That's basically just showing that MAMP is running. And so most of you can just click on my website and then you'll see a WordPress folder. I can't do that. And I noticed a few more of you had the same problem. Because I'm not using the default ports. So instead of, you might have noticed that it says, here up in the browser bar it says localhost. That's actually pretty self-explanatory. That's your own computer. That's why it's localhost. The local computer is always called localhost, no matter basically what services we use. So localhost is this computer, and because I couldn't use the default port 80, normally web servers use port 80. That's what MAMP defaults to, but my setup's a bit different, so I had to use 8088. So it says localhost :8088 because that colon shows where it needs to go to find the website, basically. So localhost 8088 and /MAMP shows this website. Okay, we don't want the MAMP, that's just showing that the server's running. Let's just delete that, and then you get basically index of /. This is what lies in the htdocs folder where you put your WordPress. As you can see, I put the folder with WordPress inside there. So, I can see there's a link to WordPress. That's because I put the folder with WordPress there. Does it make sense? That's basically what lies in that htdocs folder. As you can see, I'm just going to show MAMP htdocs, and there I put a folder with WordPress. Like you put a folder with WordPress in your htdocs folder. And then then the browser shows, when I go to my server, there's a folder with WordPress. Okay? I'll continue now just checking that it's still recording. Good. Now we're going to install the WordPress properly, because like I said, WordPress is, and all modern websites, they're slightly more complex. They need a database and a few things to run. So we need to tell your WordPress sites that you have a database, what the site's going to be named, and all that. The word naming thing you might know from WordPress.com if you use that. But if you click the WordPress folder, the smart thing with WordPress is the first time you run it, I haven't been installed before. Let's let the user install me. It thinks at least. So the first time you go into the WordPress folder, you should be greeted with, from your web browser, you should be greeted with this installation page. We want it in English, at least I do. And then tell you a few things you need to set up. You need a database name, database username, password, and so on. That's important if you're running it on a web server out in the real world. In here, luckily, it's very easy and there's not much to set up with MAMP. So let's go, like it says. The database name, what do we want the database where it stores the data to be named? For now, let's call it WordPress. I'll get back to in one of the last lessons why that might not be optimal, but let's call it WordPress. And since it's MAMP, if I remember correctly, it's MAMP's default values are root. Not very secure. Do use better passwords if you install something on a web server on the on the outside. Root and database host, well, it's running on your computer. It's of course localhost. And table prefix, don't mind that. That's in the database what's going to be put. So let's see if it works with root, or if I remember correctly. No. Just check it. Yes, might remember incorrectly. Should be root. Well, it ought to be root. Does it work for you with root? You might have changed it in the last version then. Shame on them. Okay. Well, we'll just go change it. Okay, that's interesting.
code or stored? Okay, WordPress again.
Oh well, I'll find out what they changed the password to and put it online in the video like as promised. But just so use the time. You'll get the link to the video where I find the password and so on. But I'm going to just to show you actually how I know some of you have seen WordPress.com. This is the backend of and this is what you're going to see on your own computer when you get when I find the right password. Apparently I didn't know they changed it. I figured it worked a week ago with the last version, but okay. Oh well, I'll find it to you. This is what WordPress looks if you run it on your own server. More or less, there's a few features here that's been added via plugins because that's the theme. Because that's the main good thing about hosting your own. The plugins and themes allow you to add extremely many new features to your website, which you don't have in your WordPress when you don't have access to it in WordPress.com. On the other hand, the hosting the .com solution, instead of hosting it on your own server, allows you for a lot of ease of mind because you don't need to think about as many things. But on the other hand, here you have options. So more or less like .com, the topmost, if you log into the website, in this case it would be /vp-admin, and then you go to you can log in. Then you'll see this one. We'll continue next time when I've got it running on my own web server locally. And of course put up the video so you can get it on running locally. Then we'll continue in a bit from there on and repeat what we talked about here. But I'm going to show you how it looks now, at least on the live side on the net. So the dashboard, what you're getting there, this is more or less as pretty standard dashboard. As I said, this live side looks slightly different than a vanilla install, but not that much. So in the dashboard you can see how many posts there's on the site, and so, like the name says, the basic information about the site. The one thing you'll notice is if you're running your own site that occasionally, of course, there'll be updates actually rather often. Usually, not only the code behind the website, but also your plugins and everything they have a centralized system for telling you if there's updates, so there'll be some numbers next to updates if there's any updates available. And then of course just click updates, then you get a list of what can be updated, and you usually say yes. Yeah. Posts, well, that's pretty self-explanatory, and that's also like WordPress.com. That's where your blog posts are. like I mentioned, like I alluded before, WordPress is a content management system, but its roots are a blog system, and that's where a lot of people still have a preconception about WordPress being for blogs. No, it's not only for blogs. You can use it for basically any kind of site that the examples before show. But here you have the blog posts. Title says self-author, categories. Yeah. Languages is new. You won't have that because I got that from a plugin I added to the sites where I make basically, if you see the site, you can see that you have the option of changing languages between Danish and English. And then of course, some posts are in Danish only. So if you go to in English and go to visit one of the posts in Danish, for example, it'll say this is only available in Danish because we set the site language. The user visiting the site has set his language to English. But that's a plugin I added. I'm going to show you that in a later lesson, some of these plugins which often come in very handy. In my opinion, it's at least rather handy to have the option of having a site multi-language, so people can switch languages. And I mainly did that because of both of Danish and English students, so some of the materials. This will also be available in English mainly, but I'll probably put a quick summary of it up in Danish too for the Danish students here. So if you go to a post, let's just go to the English one because that's the most normal one. This is the basic blog post structure. The title of the post and whatever content, and well, usually most of these menu options are there for YouTube. There's a few came from plugins, but the rest of them, it does look rather much like white writing in Word, right? And it should be pretty easy to get because you write in this basically like you used to, like you're writing in a text program, such as Word. And yes, of course, you can, if you know a bit about HTML code, so you can go text view and then you can, that's basically what is shown in the post to the left, but yeah. We'll stick to the Visual Composer for you. Then of course, if you want to add pictures, you can say add media. WordPress has a centralized media library, so whenever you want to add a picture or a video or some sound, as you can see, you can also create audio playlists and video playlists. You go here to insert media and upload files and pick whatever file you want to upload. Yeah, let's just say I want to put this picture into the post. And then you put your picture into the post. If you say add to post, add. So most of this is, in my opinion, rather self-explanatory. Yeah, create gallery, of course, then you can string pictures together and create a gallery. All of these things are, I'm just going to let you look at it, it's easier to do from here. Yeah, good. And then here up to the right, you can see there's a big box called Publish. Of course, if you are writing something and need to go from the computer, you can save the draft so it remembers, even if you close the browser down, it remembers until you click Publish, of course, or also press remember afterwards. But draft, you can make changes and save them, but they aren't visible before you press Publish. Status says itself. Visibility, we can change a few things there if you want it to be visible. Well, once you click Publish, you can change a few things. You can actually make posts in WordPress and same goes to pages that are password protected. So people need a password to access that page if you want that. We want to. So while I said it's public, it doesn't necessarily have to be public. And private means I can see it, it's published, I can see it, but normal visitors who aren't logged into the website cannot see it. The whole logging into the website. We'll continue that next time when I've gotten kicked map a bit around and got it working. We'll continue that next time then. Yeah. And luckily, all of this works. I've seen quite a few of you have WordPress.com pages. All of this is basically the same there. Revisions, that feature was added a few years ago. That's actually very nice. You can see post revisions once you've saved your drafts. Then you can go through your list of drafts and roll back basically any change you made. Of course, to the last save, to the point you saved your draft. That's rather nice. And publish immediately. You are allowed to schedule post publishings actually, so you can say, I want this to be published, let's say, at midnight tonight. Then you can say, November 2nd, 2017, 24:00, and then it will be published at midnight. So I click the publish button, but it won't be published for the world to see until midnight. So you can actually make publishing schedules. That means quite a lot. Then you can, because you can do a lot of user research, and when your user base usually go around visiting websites and so on. So there's a lot of studies about that when different kinds of different demographics go with websites. So you can actually being able to schedule your release, what you're releasing on your websites makes a lot of sense, because then you want it to be new and fresh whenever your main target demographic goes to visit your website. So that's actually pretty neat if you care about such things, which you probably do. The format box looks a slightly different, and not all themes have it. Basically, this is basing on the theme. Usually you just have normal types of posts, but many themes have options of having different kinds of post types they lay out quite a bit differently. We're going to talk more about that when we are looking at the themes next time. Hopefully we can get everything with server and such things up and running quickly next time, so we can go on and spend most of the time next time talking about themes and look on the website. So this is themes allowed for different post types. For now, the normal post type is the standard, but the team might give you access to other post types that have different layouts. For example, if we chose video, the layout would be centered around me having a video embed and having the ability to have a YouTube video before any text. So, format changes the layout of the page. Categories allows you to categorize your posts. That name says it all, basically. So if you have let's say, of course I said it's a blog I have a blog if I want to write about what's on my page, but let's say I want to have a post about, and this is my teaching blog after all, a post about English, so of course I put it in the category for English, because then when I set up menus and such on, so on, I can put up, for example, a menu, I can link the menu, link a place in the menu to the category English, so if they click there, they see all posts with the category English. That's pretty neat that's pretty easy, and that's such a way to sort your content, which of course is useful for the user, because you can do what I said with the menu adding, so menus linked to certain categories, but of course also for you as an author, because that makes it easier for you to find around. Let's say you, I can show you. If we take my other page here, if you noticed, 10,055 posts. I can't remember every one of them in my head, right at the top of my head. But then, of course, you can say, I want to see, I think I wrote about something, I want to find one of my old posts. Then I can go to a category and, only get posts shown from that category. Might be not help that much, because there's still 500 posts in this category, but you get the point. Categories both help the user and help you organize your content, your posts on your website. The same goes basically for tags. Luckily, nowadays people are very used to the concept of tags. Is there any of you who haven't noticed, who've never seen a tag on Facebook, Twitter, or anywhere else? It's the same concept here. No, you don't write hashtag in front of them, but it is basically tags to again, you have categories to sort your content, and then tags to keywords to show for your content. And that's basically what it is. Think tags here are basically, the concept of them is the same as the concept of tags on Facebook. You can also, I'll just find this page here. Of course, you can see tags. This is basically the most used tags on the website. I just having my site show them here in a tag cloud. Some tag clouds are different, but yeah, look different, but the same. The concept is the same. Tags is keywords for your tags. So you both, which might be a bit complex. You have two ways of sorting your content. You have categories. Think of them as broad sorting, as a broad way of sorting your content. I want to suggest you have thousands of categories, maybe 5, 10, fitting whatever you're writing about, but keep it to a minimum on the minimum with categories. But tags, well, whatever tags describes your text. I mean, you shouldn't have a copy of your whole text in the tag area, but you might have put something into a category about. Let's say you're writing about flowers, and then you might have a category named flowers because you're writing a post about flowers. Then for tags, you might have red, and such, denoting the colors of the specific colors of the flower, or 2 leaves or something different, whatever. I think I think it should be obvious what the tag is used for, more in depth than categories. And then the last one, which is on every WordPress theme, more or less, the option to have a featured image on the post. Because like you can see here, if you go to the front page of the website, each post have a featured image. And most themes will show the featured image on your blog roll or on your front page or whatever, how you set up your website. We're going to look into that in a moment, if we have time today. Or we're going to look at that next time I see. But we'll just finish this off and then we'll stop. Every post has a featured image because, truth be told, would you click it? Would you find it interesting? Just if you see a text link with no image, that's not that very interesting to click on. You don't feel compelled to click on it the same way you feel compelled to click on a link with an image above. And that's why every post has a featured image. And, well, we ran into a few technical problems today, but you've seen briefly how a post looks in WordPress. Pages luckily look more or less the same, and that's why we're going to continue next time, look into how basically to sort your content a bit more, difference between posts and pages, how to set up your site to look nice, and of course I'll find out why they changed the software so it you couldn't get your website running. So next time I'm planning on spending a few minutes. Please give me 2 minutes more, because next time we'll begin with getting your website up and running on your computer, and then we'll style it so it looks nice and talk a bit about what's good themes, where to find the good themes, and so on. Basically, next time we'll look into how to get your website looking nice, because no one wants to look something that looks like it was made by drawn by a 5-year-old given a box of crayons. And if there's any questions before next time, do write me an email, or if you see me on around the campus, just grab me. This is my email address. Thank you for listening, and I'm sorry we didn't get to do everything I hope for today. We'll catch up next time.